Are you ready?
Power.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
I'm building an alliance.
God bless the internet.
Okay, let's party.
It's showtime.
It's time for the Alliance Guys podcast with your hosts Kevin Frazier, Jaden, DKM, and J. Cal.
Oh wait, I'm always slow to it. Oh man. Hey everyone, welcome to the Alliance Guys podcast, a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance. My name is Jay Callen. With me, of course, are my two pals, my friends, my confidants. The other, well, no, they're not the other, but they are the Alliance Guys. I'm talking about Jaden and DKM. Welcome to the show, fellas. What's going on, Jaden? Haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, I've been around helping Dr. Zacconi promote the next Dangerous Joe Wrestling Gladiators event on Saturday night, August 27th, at the MaxFit Sports Center, located 240 Delsey Drive South in beautiful uptown Glassboro, New Jersey. You know, just trying to get the word out there. And, you know, I'm the, you, myself, and DK are the original Alliance Guys, the OG Alliance Guys, OGAG.
OGAG. We should get shirts made.
Yeah, nobody will buy them. Anyway, so I'm here to talk about the National Wrestling Alliance, and I actually watched NWA USA this week. Well, about an hour ago.
USA. Well, DKM will have to lead the conversation on USA because your boy Jay didn't get an opportunity to watch USA this week.
Jay!
I know, right?
Man.
And you know what? I'm going to be honest, it actually looked kind of good, too, and I didn't have time.
Kind of? Yeah.
DKM, how are you doing, my good friend?
Well, I'm here. What more do you want from me?
That's a big improvement.
I showed up.
That's a big improvement because, as far as I've known, DK's never been here.
I've been there.
Been around the block once in a while, so, you know, you got that going for you. I do want to say what's up to our pals who are in the chat, all like 150 of you. Just kidding. But Doty's in the house, and Devin's in the house, and Willie's in the house, and I think that's about it. But hey, I do appreciate you guys being here, joining us in the chat, in the live chat. Of course, we're here every Thursday to talk to you about NWA POWERRR and all things associated with the National Wrestling Alliance. And we're going to get to POWERRR in a little bit. We'll also talk USA, of course. Pal DKM and Jane will be talking about that. I'm going to actually leave the room and let them discuss the show so I don't spoil it for myself. Just kidding, guys. I'm not really going to leave.
You'll never watch it. Acting like you will. That's
not true. I will watch it. But hey, can we talk for a minute about the card that's starting to shape up for the 74th anniversary show? I'm actually surprised that we've gotten this much card with 2 weeks left. But then maybe I'm not that surprised when I look at the ticket sales and there's still a lot more tickets to be sold. Jane, are you familiar with the card yet for night 1 of the 74th anniversary show?
Nope.
DK, are you familiar with the night 1 card thus far?
I was actually talking about it not very long ago.
Hey James, what's going on? Yeah, so I'm actually quite familiar with it because I've been following the Twitter of one National Wrestling Alliance. Sometimes my pal Bobby Petito, who's in this chat every once in a while, he'll clue me into some of the press releases that are popping out. But the night 1 is starting to shape up. It looks like it's going to be a fun night of the wrestling. Of course, we know Trevor Murdoch is defending the 10 pounds of gold on night number 2. We know they're crowning the U.S. tag team titles on night number 2. But on night number 1, and this isn't in any particular order because they don't really have a rundown of the actual show. But what they've announced so far is we know that Matt Cardona returns. Always Ready is going to be eventually ready, and he'll be ready for night 1, August 27th, when he faces Cardona's choice. Don't know what that means. I don't know who that is. I'm not privy to any of that information. Any guesses, Jaden, who Matt Cardona might be facing on night 1?
Yeah, the Shadow.
The Shadow knows.
Yeah, the Shadow. He was in the background, right?
I thought that was Vacant.
Oh no, Vacant is he's been winning championships forever now, and never defends them, but he always wins them. Kind of like Cardona when he was NWA champion.
Oh shit!
What was that, DK?
I said in every organization.
Yeah.
I mean, he's held titles in WWE, NWA, WCW, World Class, Mid-South, Georgia Championship Wrestling.
Incredibly Strange Wrestling Federation.
Did he ever hold the title in Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators?
Yes. He was one half of the tag team championships, which were vacant twice. So, nice. Yes. He's a 2-time dog tag team champion, vacant. He won them by himself, too.
Most impressive.
Yeah. Speaking, it's kind of like, winning a handicap match, and we'll talk about that later, I guess.
We have.
Yeah, we'll get to all of that momentarily.
I blame the other Alliance guys that we're going to have to talk about USA today.
Well, yeah. Unfortunately, if you guys know our pals, wait, I should take this off real quick. Our pals Tim and Jeremy and Dave Scooby took a knee this week. They'll be back next week. Of course, with that being said, you missed out on their typical coverage. And, what I love about their show is they don't just review the show, but they also have talking points like the "you effed up" part and the things that they like about the shows. And I really do appreciate the different different viewpoints that they give from the program. Real quick, our pal James H. Jackson says that Matt Cardona will be wrestling Gags the Gimp. Doty says it's definitely Nick Aldis, and Willie Bowen has thrown out Eli Drake. I don't think that's gonna happen. I think he's still under WWE contract, so I don't think I don't think that one's gonna happen out of the 3. But
I think it's going to be either VSK or Brian Myers.
You think it's gonna be one of the members of the family?
Sure, why not?
Can you put that graphic back up again?
Yeah, we'll get that. We'll get it up right now.
You know, by the silhouette, it kind of looks like Jeff Goldblum.
Is that Jeff Goldblum before Jurassic Park or after?
That's definitely looks like Jurassic World Jeff Goldblum because the hair's like shorter.
All right. The next match that was recently advertised, and I don't know if you want to call this cross promotion or if this is just a one-off, but you know, the person mostly responsible for controlling your narrative, the CYN promotion, has been EC3, and he makes his debut in the NWA, taking on the returning Mims, and that's going to be also night number 1. And I think this is a huge get for the NWA. Now, myself, I'm not a huge EC3 fan. I do see the appeal. I know why people like him. But bringing him into the NWA certainly will get eyeballs on the product, for especially those who are following that Control Your Narrative promotion. DK,
All 7 of them.
Yeah, I was going to say, first of all, is anybody following Control Your Narrative?
The funniest thing happened the other day. It happened to be on Twitter. And some just random guy says, hey, does anyone know the next Control Your Narrative pay-per-view? And I thought, well, that's weird. I don't typically follow people who are following that, but okay. And I said, hey, he's going to be in the NWA pay-per-view. Does that count? And he's like, no. Fair enough. And then I just so happened to find a bunch of upcoming events for the Control Your Narrative promotion. So, I mean, they have a series of shows, matches, events coming up. Do people follow it? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know.
You know, I honestly know that they ran here WrestleMania like weekend or whatever, and supposedly, I never even heard results. So, but I couldn't tell you for $20 or my life how often they have run since, who wrestles for them on any regular basis, and why EC3 looks like he needs braces. I don't know any of those.
All right, so because you asked, Control Your Narrative has ran 8 events, most of them in Orange County, Florida, but they've had events in Wisconsin, Michigan, Cleveland, and in Dallas, of course, WrestleMania weekend. And their most recent event took place on May the 15th. And I do know that they had a joint, maybe it wasn't a full-on Control Your Narrative, but they did a joint show with, I believe it was All-Star Wrestling. So that's not on Cage Match, but to give you
3 months since they ran.
Say that again?
It's been at least 3 months since they run.
Yeah. And people that they've used on their shows, Weston Blake, Big Damo, Dante Smiley, EC3, Jamie Stanley, AJZ, Adam Scher, Flip Gordon, Austin Aries, Bateman, you might remember from Ring of Honor, Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, Blake, Bulletproof Troop, Jordan Cross, Vinny Pacifico, Amber O'Neill, Dirty Dango, Eric Redbeard, Jake Logan. Was that real? Jake Logan was on a card.
Don't surprise me.
Killer Cross, Marcus Knight. Man, most of these names I've never even heard of. Yeah, there's a lot of people on there I've never heard of. Anyway, hey, Chad Reese is in the house. Oh, Jake Logan is a pro wrestler, not the. Oh, I was thinking Jake Paul. Oh, sorry.
You're probably thinking Logan Paul.
Yeah, well, Logan Paul and his brother Jake Paul, both of it. Like Jake Paul is the one that does the boxing, and Logan Paul is now wrestling with the WWE.
And he also boxes.
Yeah, I mean, he's not as good, I don't think.
He was talking about the conjoined twin, Jake Logan.
There you go.
Could be.
Logan X. James H. Jackson says he hopes that Matt Cardona will wrestle the America's Jawline, that dude, Jamie Stanley. Dave Scooby's asking if EC3 is doing Billy a favor. You know, I don't know. I think it would make a lot of sense to work with some of those guys from Control Your Narrative, because a lot of those guys still have that WWE name value that they earned. Like, you know, if you brought in somebody like Adam Scherr and brought him into the NWA, first of all, he's bigger than everyone on the roster. But secondly, I mean, he's got name value. You know, Braun Strowman is somebody like, I get Adam Scherr is different than Braun Strowman, but if you put his face on a poster, it's got facial recognition. You know, I think people would be, hey, I know that guy. And
It'd be interesting. It'd be interesting to see him against Tom Latimer.
Well, yeah, I mean, or like, what if he was wrestling against Trevor Murdoch? Not too many guys are bigger than Trevor Murdoch.
You talking about in the world or just in the NWA?
In the NWA, in pro wrestling. I mean, sure, there's a lot of guys bigger than Trevor Murdoch in the world and in the world of pro wrestling. But in the NWA, there's not a lot bigger than Trevor Murdoch. And then, I mean, like, look, Mike Knox versus Adam Scherr. If he comes in as a babyface, maybe he's the guy that wants to get rid of Cardona.
Are you sure?
Chad Reese is in the house. Chad runs the Reddit board on the NWA Reddit page. So welcome, Chad. Appreciate you being here. Dodie asks if you guys want Eric Redbeard to come to the NWA.
No.
I'll be honest. I mean, the same thing about Adam Scherr, except for less. I mean, he's got some value, but like, I don't. Having seen him in person, watching him as part of the Primetime Live, I just don't feel like he fits in to that model. He's not somebody that I would go out of my way to seek, but I could be wrong. Well, you know, Jaden, what do you think?
If he's built well and promoted well and booked well, so that means no, because he's coming to the NWA.
Willie Bowen would like to see Blake Bulletproof Troop come in. I mean, that dude is a legitimate MMA fighter. He's won grappling awards. I've actually talked to him on a handful of times, and he seems like a really cool dude. But again, I don't know if he would make the cut in the NWA. I did see him wrestle Jordan Clearwater on Primetime Live a few months ago. Maybe it was last year, and he did a decent job. He's also, I think he's friends with Chris Silvio, who is Jack Stane's attorney in the NWA. But I don't know. Anyways, so getting back to the pay-per-view, you know, if Ethan Carter III does bring the Control Your Narrative group to the NWA, that'd be a quick way to get the Cardonas over as baby faces. Then also on night one, we've got the Burke Invitational. Of course, whoever wins the Burke Invitational gets an opportunity to wrestle whomever is the Women's World Champion on night number 2. And the names that were announced, and I don't know if this is in order, but we'll just try. Of course, Samantha Starr, third-generation wrestler, daughter of Baby Doll.
And Sam Houston.
Oh, and Sam Houston, thank you. Tootie Lynn Ramsey, who made her debut for the NWA at the last year's anniversary show at the Chase. Kylan King, who oddly enough made her debut last year at the Chase. Misa Kate. Maddie, not Maddie Renikowski, just Maddie. Max the Impaler. Angelina Love. Genocide, and most recently announced Natalia Markova. Out of those names, DKM, of those ladies, who do you think has the juice to win it all?
Who do I think has the juice to win it all, or who do I think should win it all?
Both.
Has the juice to win it all? Probably Genocide. Should win it because of her history with both of the competitors for night one and the women's title. Probably Markova.
Our pal Chad agrees with you. What do you think, DK? Or what do you think, Jaden? Who do you think should win?
I don't think any of those girls are on the juice personally. But I think Max the Impaler is going to win. Biggest competitor in the match. Biggest match they could possibly put on for the second night.
I think that's a good choice. I think actually both of those are good choices. Natalia Markova is one of my favorite wrestlers to watch in the NWA. She's really polished in the ring. Genocide is also one of my favorites. Again, I think she's got one of the most well-rounded gimmicks characters in the promotion. The one that you guys missed, I think, was Kylan King, who I think, to what DK said, her match with Camille was very, very good. Her match with Taya Valkyrie was also very good. And given the fact that she's obviously hungry and somebody that the NWA has put a lot of spotlight on, I think she could be somebody that might advance to the next night. Real quick, Willie Bowen says Angelina loved the flat butt trailer park tramp. Luthez says the juiciest, of course. Juventud Guerrera isn't in this one. And Willie Bowen says his crush Genocide. And then James H. Jackson says, I feel it's too early for her to win. I hope Max doesn't get scooped up by Tony Khan, as she was backstage at the last few episodes of Dynamite. She was in Ring of Honor prior to joining the NWA roster. So, if they're not going to put the belt on somebody new, if it's Camille or if it's Taya, whoever walks away night one, Max the Impaler would be a great person to get a victory over, I believe. You guys object to that?
No.
I don't object to it, but honestly, it's not a matchup I would care to see.
Also, for that night, we have Homicide taking on Carrie Morton. Is Carrie Morton a third generation wrestler or second generation? DK, do you know?
Kind of both.
Yeah. His grandfather, Ricky Morton's dad, I don't know how much he actually wrestled. I know he was like part of a ring crew, part a referee and all that.
Yeah, he was a referee for the Southern Territories. He did have a few matches, but I don't know if that classifies you as a wrestler.
Yeah, I mean, he was never a long-term pro wrestler. He was in the wrestling business. So,
I'm not asking for you to make a prediction here, but do you think this is a good matchup for Homicide?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a good matchup as long as Homicide wins.
Fair enough. Next, I want to just real quick, I want to get to the comments because you guys are shooting them out there quick. Willie Bowen said, oh, never mind. Medias M5 says his grandfather Ricky's dad was a wrestler ref. Chad says I think he's a third generation. Ricky's dad wrestled in Tri-Cities area. Media is also predicting victory for Homicide, and Chad says I think Jim Cornette mentioned it before. Okay, so we'll just say it's he's a third generation wrestler, at least third generation in the industry. I think that's fair to say. Then of course the other match that's was announced early on, thanks to Busted Open Radio for getting the match set up. We're going to have Bully Ray and Mike Knox in a tables match. And, obviously these two have some history. And this is I think this is one of the byproducts of this Billy Corgan owning the NWA and his history with Impact. He was there for part of the Aces and Eights stuff. So with these two have that history that from that time in Impact's history. And of course, when Mike Knox and Bully Ray met face to face at Always Ready, Mike Knox ended up putting them through a table. Jaden, do you think this match is something that people want to see, or do you think this is just more trying to give Mike Knox something to do?
I think it's something that the NWA is trying to capitalize on the success of Billy Ray's radio broadcasting credentials and his world championship credentials in TNA and his WWE and his ECW credentials. I think they're trying to put a name out there, hoping somebody sees the name and tries to buy the pay-per-view because they're like, oh, I wonder what happened to Bully Ray or Bubba Ray or whatever.
Sure. What do you think, TK?
Yeah, I'm more along the line with Jaden. I think it's honestly the most built-up story on the entire card.
Well, okay, the next match I was going to reference had some build to it as well. But yeah, I mean, like, again, it does have that long-standing history, but one of the things I don't like about it is that it's adopting history from Impact, and I wish there wouldn't do that, because it's like there's this shared universe because Billy used to work there. But this is like if Jim Lee brought the X-Men to the DC universe. I mean, it just doesn't work like that. I don't like it. I did not watch Impact during that time, and I briefly only knew who the Aces and Eights were because of clips I saw on the internet. But I didn't even know Mike Knox was wrestling until recently when he rejoined the NWA. I didn't know he was in Impact at any point, so that was all news to me. The next match,
care back then.
Yeah. Let's get to some comments real quick, just because I see you guys are still talking. Vincent says he'd like to see Carrie Morton as a heel. I'm 100% on board with that. Just even looking at that kid's face. Let me just pull it up real quick again. Look at that.
Very sloppy.
That is not a baby face. That is a heel. Just on looks alone, that's a heel.
Well, then again, we have a man named Homicide who's the face.
Yeah, that's true.
Explain that.
That's because he's justifiable. Justifiable homicide. Yeah.
Are we talking about New Jack?
No.
Never. Let's
zoom.
Chad, I think, agrees with me saying that he, when in doubt, go to TNA for talent. Yeah, I don't like that. James is going back to the whole Morton's father, Paul, was a professional wrestling referee. His cousin Todd Morton also wrestled occasionally, teaming with Morton. So, I mean, at the very least, third generation in the industry.
You ever see Todd Morton?
No.
He was a historic Marco Stunt. My gosh.
I think I would be very insulted at that, but at least Todd Morton could wrestle.
I'm just talking size-wise.
Yeah, well, I'm not arguing the size-wise. I'm just saying at least he could wrestle.
Not as bad as Manny Villalobos in Southwest, but I think Manny only missed midget wrestler by about 3/4 of an inch.
It's little people.
Kerry doesn't need to turn on his dad. His dad just needs to go away.
Well, that would be the best way, to just send him off in the sunset, like in the back of an ambulance, and then we'd never have to see him again, because that's what I'd be about. But I know I'm in the minority. I still have my Rock and Roll Express shirt. I should give that away. Who wants a Rock and Roll Express shirt? Here it is. Who wants it?
If this was 1986, there would be about 50 billion teeny boppers banging at your door.
I got it when I did that. I did briefly for that Pro Wrestling Loot, and that was one of the T-shirts that was in there. Oh man, I got two guys there. We'll have to weigh it down later. I don't know. We'll give it away. I promise. Somebody's gonna take it tonight.
What size is it?
It's a 2X.
I'll take it.
I can't give it to you. You're on the show, my friend.
You never.
Yeah, he asked who wanted it. You didn't say he was. You said you were giving it away. You didn't say it was like a contest or anything official, or that I wasn't disqualified from it. Just say who wants it.
I say we fire Jay now.
You say fire Jay?
Yeah. There we go. Now.
Why, you trying to kill the podcast again, DK?
Yeah, might as well. I'm bored. I don't got anything else to do. And besides, he kept talking about the 74th.
All right. Well, we got to see Jack Stain versus Scion. I don't know why we have to deal with this. Who's the babyface in this match?
Nobody. Billy loves heel versus heel. It's his favorite match to promote.
Okay.
A real interesting dynamic here is, so Chris Silvio, who is Jack Stain's attorney, and real quick, side note, how much better would it have been if White Lavender Jones was Jack Stain's manager?
If you bring that name up again, I'm quitting.
If it was Bruce Tharp as Jack Stain's manager. Hear me out. We all know that guy is a character, right? When he was in Japan, he had the very loud suits, the like neon bright white teeth, and everything about him was just so like hateable. Chris Silvio seems like a decent guy. man, Bruce Tharp would excel as being a manager, especially in this wrestling promotion. That's my 2 cents.
Oh, well.
Awkward silence.
All right.
Well, no, I mean, actually, I don't disagree. It would make storyline sense, too, that he brings in one of his most dominant champions to go after the current NWA and blah, 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 and ends up with Tim Storm, and I don't know if there's any of the
Funny if you added Tim Storm to the faction. Tim Storm and Jack Steen.
And see, now you could bring in Barrett Brown.
Oh, and then you could bring in what are they called? The Heat Seekers.
Heat Seekers again, yeah. So I mean, there could have been a good storyline if they had actually, wanted to do a good storyline. I'm sorry. That made me die.
I think DK just had a stroke.
Well, and like here's the thing. Excuse me. Here's the thing too. I'm not saying that this is a great move for the NWA, but what a way to pull back some of that older audience, right? I don't know how much of them they missed. I don't know how many fans are out there that aren't currently watching the NWA today that were watching during the Tharp era, but what a callback. And DK, you said it right. If you put Tim Storm in that position with Bruce Tharp, Jack Stain, the Heat Seekers, Barrett Brown, and you go after the world's heavyweight title, whoever it is, Matt Cardona, Nick Aldis, Trevor Murdoch, it doesn't really matter. That would be at least a very compelling storyline, whether like everybody jumped on board or there was resistance to it. It would be fun, and it would give you an opportunity to have a heel Tim Storm on his way out, maybe one more run with that heel faction. I think that would be pretty amazing. But then again, I'm a little bit biased because I'm a big NWA honk from back in the day. So
well, and just think, if you did the storyline right and you built it right, you could end up with the Four Horsemen situation of you could put the world title on Jax, you could put the national title on Storm, even though he's a former North American champion. In fact, even though he'd have the national title and the national belt, he could refer to himself as the North American champion.
That would make it even better.
I mean, and you put the tag team titles on
the Heat Seekers?
Heat Seekers and Junior Title and Barrett. I'm not saying everybody holds the titles for, years or whatever, but if you had like a 1 month period where all of them held their old title, over time they all won the titles, and over time they all lose the titles, but there'd be about a 1 month period where they all hold the titles. I mean, I think that would be a story that you could get people into if you told it right and the wrestling was good. Now, of course, I don't know who the NWA person would be now that, Nick Aldis apparently would rather slap Billy than talk to him, but,
We'll get to that too later in the show. But, I mean, just look, at the very least, it would be something that would be different. But I don't know, maybe the time to do that was like 2 years ago.
No, it was. I mean, it would about a year. It's something they probably could have done coming out of the pandemic, where Bruce Tharp came in and said, you guys have really screwed this up since I've been gone. And Chad, the answer to your story is, who do you trust? Nobody.
Nobody.
Not one person. It would only work if I booked it.
Right.
So getting back.
Real quick, since we're talking about Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem, in your opinion, this NWA today, is it any better than the Bruce Tharp NWA?
I mean, you're opening up a huge can of worms that we can't answer in a 2-hour show, but there are a lot of elements that I sorely miss from the Tharp era NWA, and I never thought I would say that. There's a lot of things that I think Billy gets right, but there's some things that I think would have been better had the NWA not been bought by William Patrick Corgan.
Well, I mean, I think you were talking about two different types of companies. Tharp's problem was he wasn't a businessman. And when he and Ron Quilla split, he really lost that business side, the one who would keep things organized and, you know, keep Bruce's big dreams in check. And so, but I mean, you can argue, okay, they have their Fight TV deal, they have their shows on YouTube, and they're running pay-per-views on Fight TV. And so, I mean, you could look at that and argue, well, yeah, they're better off. I mean, we've had Nick Aldis as world champion, blah, blah, blah. We've had some Cody Rhodes as world champion, you know, whatever. So there's an argument that you could make that it's better. I'm not going to argue it's better. I'm going to argue it's different. Because I think when you have those different promoters who could bring in different things and different guys, you got a lot of talent that you could pull from. And although Dave Lagana didn't like any of them, I think, well, I mean, look, I'm not saying anything he didn't say. He went on interview after interview and basically trashed all the promoters and the product.
Some of them deserved it, though. Let's be honest.
Some did, but I don't know that all of them did. I think some of them put on good product for what they were. Tony Gibbons.
Well, I mean, like let's talk about like NWA Smoky Mountain, right? Or now as they are.
Does this just change hat night?
Yeah, this one is a little tight. I prefer this hat, but I haven't had a haircut in a while, so I keep changing my hats because I don't really like this. My kids dropped the Alliance hat in the gutter today, and I didn't feel like wearing it without washing it.
I don't kind of blame you for that. I think.
Wait a minute.
Get your wife to buy a pair of clippers and shave your head.
Your mind's always in the gutter, so what's the hat have a difference?
He's got a point.
DK, I don't know what you're talking about, man. Look at these locks.
That's what I'm talking about.
The young, gorgeous George over here.
Yeah, didn't he get his head shaved? And his wife?
H.
Anyway.
So James brings up a good point. Oh, man, I have two mouses on my desk. Which one's the right one?
Whichever
one on the right.
Whichever one you don't pick.
Right. So James brings up a good point. You know, the technology's changed a lot since even those days with the Bruce Tharp era. There wasn't a Fight TV then like there is now, and a promotion like Smoky Mountain or maybe Mountain State or even like the Sawmill, which I know is coming back. They all could have probably been on Fight and might have had a similar audience to the size that Power has now. And it would have been like 3 times the amount of content that was coming to NWA fans. Imagine if the NWA All Access then had like 3 different shows that you were getting for the cost of $14.99 or $4.99 a month, and then a pay-per-view every 4 months. If the NWA could put that together, I'm not saying it's that easy. I'm not saying it's simple, but I'm just saying, like, you know, if the technology had been there, the NWA did a few shows that were pay-per-view level quality under the Tharp era. I mean, the Parade of Champions, they did twice with talent from New Japan. And these were great shows. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the show in Houston with New Japan. I was actually there. And they put on some stuff. And I do think that you're right to the sense that they probably could have got pay-per-views on the Fight. I don't know if they would have got shows or not. And honestly, I mean, some of those promotions still exist and they still run.
Yeah.
And, you know, they're still what they were back then. But look, you know, at the time, those shows weren't necessarily looking to be big national shows. They were looking to draw for their area, a decent thing, make a little bit of money, or, you know, at least break even. Heck, the original Mountain State, that guy he didn't even care if he lost a little bit of money.
I watched one of those shows. They did it on YouTube. They were airing those shows on YouTube. They were kind of one of the first wrestling promotions I saw on YouTube. They even beat Championship Wrestling from Hollywood to YouTube, and they were using Cucumber and Company to produce those shows. And I don't care that there was like 6 people there watching it. It looked beautiful. And I remember watching them. They were in some sort of like dive bar or something, and some ladies walking by with a cigarette. And it totally threw me out of the match, but I just thought it was so funny. Sorry.
Yeah, some of those shows did not do much for the stereotype of the wrestling fan.
Matt Conrad versus the Stro, and this lady walks by just puffing on a cigarette, stands right in front of the camera for at least 20 seconds. Sorry.
Anyhow.
Yeah.
Right. My whole point for all that is I'm not going to say necessarily one era was better than the other era. I will say that they were different types of eras. And again, it's been pointed out, well, where would they be today with today's access and stuff like that? I mean, and what are the goals? And we talked a little bit about this before coming on the show. But see, to me, Billy running a successful promotion is only secondary to him.
Yeah.
Billy wants to run his promotion, and he wants it to be successful. But it being his promotion, run how he wants to run it is more important.
More important than being successful?
Yeah.
Yeah, I could understand that. He's what happens when you order Tony Khan off a Wish. I got it.
Basically. Yeah, he and Tony Khan are not that much different.
Well, that's why they don't want to deal with one another anymore. That's why they don't want to deal with one another anymore.
Probably. But, Tony Khan simply has more money.
This is true.
And more time and more cocaine.
And let's remember, we've talked off the air about some of the DC happenings and the Batgirl film being, canceled and all that stuff over at Warner Brothers Discovery. And let's not forget that Warner Brothers Discovery is trying to cut $3 billion. Guess who owns the Turner networks that AEW runs on?
Warner Brothers Discovery, and nobody should be shocked. I mean, they locked up the Warner Brothers and their Warner sister Dot up in a water tower for years.
They locked them in the tower, and then they got broke loose.
Yeah, apparently you don't remember the theme song, do you?
And now you know the plot. All right, so that's enough of that. Real quick, Chad says he should take chances and go north. There's lots of markets that Billy has not been to yet. I know that there is talk that they might be in different markets soon. Remember, the show started off in Atlanta, and since then they've migrated to Nashville and St. Louis for extended TV tapings. Who knows? I've always thought that Houston would be a good place for them to go, especially with the history that they had there. They've done pay-per-views in North Carolina. I could see them heading back there. The only place I don't think they would succeed is California. Everything else I think is open.
Well, I think for them it's going to be partnerships, kind of. They kind of work with the Tried and True crew and the
Casanas, Joe Casano.
Yeah, and
Kazana maybe?
That's the one.
Yeah.
They're in the Tennessee area, and of course, we know Trevor Murdoch's recently been wrestling for Wildcat. So it certainly wouldn't surprise any of us if, they wouldn't make an appearance somewhere in Louisiana.
Only if they knew a promoter like the Wildcat promoter, that could help them out in that situation.
Well, and that's exactly my point. The only reason they would go to Louisiana is because, basically Hawks would they would be able Hawks to do all their stuff to run an NWA show, kind of like they've done in the past. I mean, which if he's good with, I'm fine. I mean, I don't care. But so, and I don't know that it will happen. I mean, we don't know where in Louisiana they might run. Could be Shreveport, but with the casinos. But I could see something like that. I could see them in Louisiana. I could see them, in the Tennessee areas where they're working. I think St. Louis will probably be their anniversary show for the foreseeable future. And they may or may not go back to the Carolinas. It would just depend on if they had somebody there that could help them. They could come to Texas and I would help them, but they would, rather swallow a glass full of razor blades. So
that's because you used to work for the Tharp NWA. Isn't that true, DK?
That's what people keep telling me. I'm still waiting for my checks.
And so are a lot of wrestlers. So are a lot of promoters.
Jaden's on it tonight. Another match for night one was just announced earlier today. Our buddy James posted in the chat earlier, but the World Tag Team Championships, Commonwealth Connection versus La Rebellion. Now, DK,
ooh, yes, ooh,
yeah, I was gonna say, DK, you weren't excited about this one. Tell us why you don't like that matchup.
Because I think La Rebellion is going to win the titles back, and I'd rather another team win the titles.
I don't mind that.
Yeah,
I don't mind that because then I would have Harry turn on his partner and maybe become a singles wrestler.
I would very much like Harry to be a singles wrestler.
I would like him to be a singles wrestler. I was talking off air with Jay. I don't know. This run, he seems to be missing a step. Maybe it's because he's teaming with somebody who he's never teamed with before. I still like him, but I have not been as impressed with him as I have in the past. He kind of looks like his knees might be starting to go bad. Or, he did suffer a legit back injury, and maybe that slowed him down some. I don't know. I also don't know if Harry Smith may not be sought elsewhere at, various points, not necessarily WWE but, there might be somebody somewhere that runs more often and better and everything.
Plausibly, but him and Corgan go back to the
RCW.
Yeah, whatever that thing was back in the day.
Chicago-based promotion.
Maybe.
It's got some history.
We'll see. Hey, we never talked much about Jax Dane and Scion, and I would just like to put forth the fact that that's the ugliest picture of Scion I've ever seen in my entire life. Why would you do that to the poor man?
I don't think he understands the dynamic of wearing a mask with a triangle opening for the mouth.
I don't think so either.
I mean, you look like a Batman villain, except for you also look freaking ridiculous. So it's not like you don't look intimidating. You just look like a goofball.
You also kind of look like a jack-o'-lantern that was carved not quite right. Anyway.
I was thinking he kind of looked like this horror movie I saw with this white-faced clown. I can't remember the name of the movie, but that clown was pretty creepy looking.
Yeah. I don't know. Penny for your thoughts, maybe. Anyway, what I want to know from you guys, do either of you think that Scion has a chance of winning? Or even more, do you think he should or shouldn't?
He should not. Do I think he will, might? It is Billy Corgan booking, so it's plausible because it doesn't make sense. I just hope Jax Dane's clotheslines him and takes his head off.
I feel like Billy is starting to get into that 50-50 booking kind of mentality. And as much as I love Jax Dane and I think he should be national champion for a very long time, I feel like they're going to take the belt off of Jax Dane and put him on Scion because I think that the TV title is going to become available. and I'm not saying they're going to put the title on Jax, but I think they want to keep somebody in the group of the Idol Mania Sports Management with the title. And, you know, the obsessive tweets about the championship belt for months now, even when he was still feuding with Tyrus, I just feel like that's where it's heading. And this is one of those situations where maybe Jax could fail upwards with him losing the national title. Maybe he can go after the winner between, Trevor Murdoch and Tyrus, whoever's holding the title at the end of that. Maybe Jax Dane could be the next guy in line. But I'd much rather keep Jax with the national title. I don't care for Scion. I've seen moments of brilliance from him, but more often than not, I see somebody who's a veteran of the ring look like a green wrestler, and I don't get it. As someone who's been in the ring as long as he has, just because he's wearing a different mask doesn't mean he's should have lost a step in the ring. He's just not as good as what I've seen from him in other wrestling promotions, and he's not a guy that I would push.
You think it's because he's trying to do a different style than what he?
That could be it, and that, in fact, that might be it. But he doesn't do it well, and I don't look at him as like if you want to make him into a Mr. Wrestling type character, and he's going to be a very scientific style wrestling, then sure, have him focus on a whole. Have him watch Arn Anderson wrestle, for crying out loud. What I see from him is someone who's like very aggressive and very it's like more like I guess I would say like a fighting spirit style of wrestling, something you might see in New Japan, but like not done well. And to me, it's just I don't see what Billy sees in him. Now, maybe that's because they're buddies. I don't know. Maybe it's because he has a bigger plan for him. I don't know. But the
20-year plan. What's
that?
He has a 20-year plan for him.
Yeah, well, the promos aren't good, and that's the thing. I get that there's a lot of talent.
What
was that?
Said it sounded like someone just mugged you.
No, I rolled over and my bed is not very comfortable right now. I'm in a really weird position.
But more than I wanted to know.
Yeah.
I just want to finish with this. I know that the NWA has a lot of elder statesmen as champions. In the world of professional wrestling, I know at some point that WWE stopped looking at you if you were 30 years or older. And I know there's a lot of guys on the roster who are, pushing 40 or over 40 who currently hold titles. And I think that that would be nice if somebody like Jordan Clearwater was, became a future champion, or a younger group of core wrestlers who are coming to. Mims comes to mind as future champions. But I don't.
Okay, now that brings up something for me. We talked earlier about EC3 and the fact that he was coming in face Mims. And I didn't like the matchup. And not because I don't like Mims, but because I like him. And it's like, if you're going to bring this guy back after an injury, and I don't know if it was a worked or legit injury, but it doesn't matter. He was someone who you're kind of in the process of building up. I would have put him in the ring with somebody that he could have beat. And I don't know who at the moment, but I would have given him a decent win on the pay-per-view. Be it a Jordan Clearwater or which I know there's some issues there, and we'll talk about that later. But someone more in that vein, even a Jake DeMoss. I would have put him in that and, put EC3 in the ring against somebody else who you basically know what the outcome's going to be, because you're not going to see the match. You're just going to see EC3, which is going to lead me to another subject. But first, what are your thoughts on, do you think they should have put him in with Mims, or do you think they should have tried to do something different with Mims?
Well, so I guess it just depends on what they do, right? Because if Mims goes over, that's a huge victory for Mims, and that kind of puts him on that path that you were talking about. Because again, he was on kind of on a roll. You know, he body slammed Tyrus. He earned that shot for the TV title. He had a few victories. He was teaming with the Pope at the Crockett Cup. It kind of looked like things were going in the right direction for him, and then obviously getting hurt at the Crockett Cup, or excuse me, at Always Ready. I don't think that was the plan. I think, and I do believe that was a legit injury. Sidelined him for a couple of weeks, a couple of months off of TV, to be honest. And in fact, you know, he won't be on any of these episodes leading up to the 74th anniversary show. So putting him in a high profile match, if he goes over, I think is great. But the likelihood of him going over on EC3 doesn't seem very realistic to me, especially when you're putting EC3 on this pay-per-view to hopefully get some of the, like we talked about earlier, some more eyeballs on the product to have that WWE familiarity. And much like on night number 2, when you bring in Davey Richards to defend the MLW Openweight National Championship against the Thrillbilly, you know, I don't feel like the Thrillbilly is going to win. I mean, I'll bet you dollars to donuts he's not going to win. And so you're bringing in these big names to putting over your young talent, your youth movement, if you will. It's not a good look. It doesn't speak to me that you have a lot of faith in some of the younger guys. And then you're kind of stuck recycling these older talents. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with the older guys, but if you never build up your own core rosters, it's like in any sport. If you just keep trading and signing free agents, you're never going to develop a young core roster that could be phenomenal if given the opportunity.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I wanted to segue in there to get your thoughts on something. Obviously, to me, the EC3 match and the Davey Richard matches are just spotlight matches for those two.
Yes.
I don't even know that a win by DQ really helps Mims, unless he just is overly competitive in the match. But, let's face it, the Thrillbilly doesn't have the best record.
He's only been on TV a handful of times.
And he's been more comic than not.
Yep.
Look, the one reason I'm glad is because it gets Poyo Damar out there. And she's such a talent. And she does so much to help put the NWA over, I think basically on her own. And everything that, she deserves to be at a pay-per-view and, in a match of some importance, even if she's the manager, I just don't know that, we've talked before, I don't know that her and Thrillbilly are the combo I want to see. But, hey, it gives her the shot, so I am willing to go with that. But here's my question. Whoever wins the national title match on night 1, and it doesn't matter, would you want to see some kind of confrontation between them and Davey Richards on night 2?
Man.
Without those teeth.
It
doesn't have to be anything major. It doesn't even have to lead to a match, but just something that kind of acknowledges there are 2 national champions here.
One of my all-time favorite moments in pro wrestling in the last 30 years was when Jeff Jarrett was the NWA World's Heavyweight Champion and Samoa Joe was the X Division Champion. And yes, this is TNA wrestling, and this was when I was a huge fan of what they were doing, because they brought in a lot of young guys. And Samoa Joe, who had been dominant in the X Division, literally just defeated everybody, walks down to the ring, and Jeff Jarrett legitimately had a scared look on his face, and he started heading back to the end of the, back to the locker room, and Samoa Joe just kind of gave him one of those shoulder. And in that moment, it was just like Samoa Joe kind of sent that message like, I could kill you if I wanted to. I could destroy you if I wanted to, but I'm not worried about you right now. I'm taking my X Division title and I'm going to go showcase myself. If it was something like that, I'd be all about it. I don't care if it's Jack Stane doing it to Davey Richards or Davey Richards doing it to Jack Stane or whoever, Scion, whoever ends up walking out with the title.
I mean, just a stare down.
Yeah, that'd be kind of a cool moment. But the other thing is I don't think it would lead to anything. So then it might be a little disappointing.
Jaden, you have any thoughts?
I don't want to say it. Honestly, I love Davey Richards. I think he would be an excellent addition to any promotion. Honestly, though, I'm going to say about what this EC3 match and the Davey Richards match, these are TV matches they're begging you to pay for on pay-per-view. That's where they should have those matches, because then that would mean something, because you're having to see for free, so you're giving a free match that's a okay match, but you kind of know who's going to win. I would much rather see EC3 versus Davey Richards, because that might make me want to actually pay for the pay-per-view. There's my thought.
Right. That's
of course I'm right. I'm always right.
Mm.
And one time I was wrong.
Well, when you became friends with us, that was probably a mistake. When you invited Wardell Walker onto the show that killed the Alliance guys the first time, that was probably a mistake.
It was probably sure I didn't do it on purpose.
What?
Sure I didn't do it on purpose.
Not 100%, but I'm leaning, 51-49.
Thought it was a mercy kill by then.
I just put a poll up. If you are on YouTube joining us in the chat, do you like avocados? A simple yes or no. Just curious, just a scientific survey here. And none of the hosts will say anything more about it, but do you like avocados? Yes or no? And
I want to say something about it. It's not fair.
With 3 votes, right now it's 67% avocados with 3 votes. So we'll see how it goes. We'll talk about it more later. But let's get back to the show. Let's get back to the pay-per-view. The last match that's been announced for night 1, of course, is Taya Valkyrie, who defeated Kylan King for that #1 contender spot. Will be taking on Camille. Why isn't it coming up? There it is. We'll be taking on Camille for the opportunity to wrestle for the Burke. Now, one thing that I absolutely love about this is that both talents are out there promoting this match. I mean, it's not just, Taya Valkyrie doing a media scrum, just talking about everything. I've heard her specifically go on about the NWA title and what the legacy of the Burke would mean to her career. You've got Camille out there talking about how important it would be to have this victory over Taya Valkyrie. Even though they haven't really locked horns yet within the NWA, the two have had matches outside of the NWA. People are still kind of murmuring about, especially at XPW, where they had faced off. In fact, it was Sam Shaw who kidnapped Camille, keeping her from the opportunity to wrestle for that title, and Taya Valkyrie ended up winning the XPW Women's Championship. Now Sam Shaw in the WWE again, and Taya in the NWA challenging for that title.
Okay, I guess I'll talk. This is the only match I think I really, really care about. Taya is very, very talented. Camille has impressed a lot of people. This is a match that could sell a pay-per-view. So this should be a major focus, in my opinion.
I say show stealer of the weekend.
Now, they haven't announced a world title match for night 1. Do you think this headlines night 1?
It should.
Should.
Main event.
Basically, all the other world titles are on the line night 1. And then the women's title will be featured night 2 as well.
Well, I definitely think it would be I agree with both of you guys. I think this is the match of the night, and it's not even close. And I think it would be kind of pay homage to last year's Empowered pay-per-view by having this be the main event. I think that'd be a right way to go.
Yeah, and I think the only reason we're not getting an Empowered pay-per-view is because somebody else owns the name to it. But But yeah, I think I'm happy to see it. Johnny Alliance needs to show up. Unfortunately, I think he's under contract to the other Play Wrestler promotion. But yeah, I really do. I'm kind of interested in seeing that match. I don't know if I'm going to order the pay-per-view just to see that one match, but that is the one that has me the most interested.
Yeah, I really feel like that's the match that's going to speak to most of the fans. And again, I really feel like, if I was not already subscribed to this, if they went back to the old pay-per-view model of, $14.99 or, $19.99, I definitely would buy this pay-per-view. I feel like there's enough matches on there to make it worth my while. But I do feel like the Camille versus Taya Valkyrie is a match that I definitely need to see. DKM, would you buy this pay-per-view if you had to? I know you get it for free because you're part of the not free, but you're part of the premier NWA VIP group.
Well, see, to me, this definition of a main event match, which, by the way, Cardona versus a special handpicked opponent might main event, but I'm hoping not. But yeah, this is like an old Worldwide Wrestling Federation or boxing type thing. There's only one match anybody cares about. And probably in the future, there's only one match anyone's going to talk about, at least in a positive light. One might be so horrendous that people talk about it. But, and that's Valkyrie versus Camille. And look, I don't know that Camille needs to lose. I would not be upset if she did because I like Valkyrie, but I don't know that she needs to. I don't know that there's enough going on, especially once they add a TV title, that I think the other ladies can change hands, couple 2 to 3 times a year. But you can't leave Camille in there as a strong champion, as a one-time champion. But, we'll see. It's possible, we'll get sick of her at some point. I don't know. But one of the keys for this matchup is the fact that I can't say with 100% certainty that Camille will walk away as champion. And not only can I not say with 100% certainty that Camille will walk away as champion, but that I wouldn't be happy if Taya Valkyrie won it. So, that's what makes a good match. You got two talents that you like, two talents that you enjoy watching that should mesh well. And that's going to be the thing.
So let me pose a question to you and the viewing audience. Does Taya holding that championship elevate the title or keep it the same? And would it be better, not for Camille, not for the fans, would it be better for the legacy of the Burke for Taya Valkyrie to win or for Camille to retain?
Yes, fans, let me know what you think.
Jade, you go first because DK isn't talking.
Well,
Okay.
I'm thinking it's actually a very interesting question. Look, Valkyrie has a pedigree, and you can't argue that.
4-time Reina de Reinas championship, currently the MLW featherweight champion, the XPW women's champion, the Impact, one half of the Impact Knockouts tag team champion. She held the WSW in Australia women's championship briefly. She's a former Knockouts women's world champion. She's held
And
a lot
tag
of
team champion.
Yeah, currently. And she's had a lot of success both here in the United States and in Mexico, and she's Canadian born. Not that matters, but
Yeah, I think it would be interesting. We talked about belt collectors. So I think it would be interesting if you ended up with Valkyrie holding. That's kind of interesting. There's going to be 2 MLW champions on the wrestling that night, and it'll be interesting to see if they don't say anything about Valkyries, and it'll be interesting to see if on that night they do mention something. But if you could put Valkyrie in there with the MLW World Women's Champion and current AAA champion and former Impact champion, I think you would. I mean, I think that could add to the prestige of the Burke, and I don't have a problem with that. I think it would be more neat that she would hold the MLW and NWA title at the same time, even if the other doesn't recognize the fact.
Sure.
You know, I think if they would just, I think that would just be kind of a cool thing.
Real quick, as a trivia note, did you know that Sabu, while NWA World's Heavyweight Champion, was also the XPW Heavyweight Champion? It would kind of be a little bit like that, where Taya could also be your NWA Women's World Champion while also holding the XPW Women's World Champion. Be the first time an XPW champion has held the NWA champion at the same time since Sabu.
And that I actually did know that, because there was actually a big controversy here in my area about it, because Sabu came in to work a rival promotion for the NWA promoter here. And
sounds like him. That sounds like Sabu.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he was the world champion. He was the NWA world champion, and the rival promotion rushed to sign to get him to come in. And so he signed, and then they found out that, you know, it was going to be in competition to the local promoter, who was Ken Taylor at the time.
Yeah.
And so they told Ken he couldn't stop it from taking place unless he booked him. Basically, you know. And so Ken said, he goes, no, just as long as they never mention the NWA letters in association with him, he goes, I'll be okay. And so, I mean, that's the way it was. And so he wasn't allowed to bring the belt. He wasn't allowed to talk about the title. He didn't talk anyway, but you know, they weren't allowed to talk about the NWA title, you know, and everything. So it went, but yeah, that was a very, very interesting time.
Jaden, would you like to chime in on this topic?
I think Tara should win the NWA World Women's Championship. I believe it's something good for the NWA with Burke. I think, unfortunately, Camille's time is probably soon, maybe, to be done with the NWA. And I think if they can lock up Tara, maybe not exclusively, but something long term, that would be good for the NWA. I mean, she has NXT exposure. She's been everywhere else. She's currently still wrestling for Impact. It's the biggest name they can probably get in the women's division, not named Mickie James. And also, the matchups would be a lot fresher now. Now you can have Tara Valkyrie versus Genocide.
Are you saying Tyra Valkyrie? It's Taya. You're adding an extra R in there, Jaden.
I was trying to make her Argus.
Hey, all of a sudden you sound like you're in a tin cup as well. What happened?
I don't know. Can you hear me better now?
No.
No.
Okay. I don't know why I'm in a tin cup.
All right. Well, we'll finish your point and then we'll move on.
But I think it'll be good for the NWA because right now, I think Camille is at the point where the booking isn't strong enough and the roster isn't strong enough, so her being a dominant champion is starting to grow a little tiresome. And maybe that now she could be part. Maybe now you could be one half of the women's champion, or the new NWA Women's Television Champion, or the new NWA Women's 6-Man Tag Team Champion or the new NWA World Intergender Tag Team Champions. Whatever the belts that Billy Corgan wants to create next. Because he doesn't have enough titles.
Ideas.
Well, and the thing that you said, right? Like I saw in the chat, someone's like, "Well, they've invested so much into Camille. I don't think now's the time to move on her." But like, with that being said, they invested a lot of time into Nick Aldis too, and that didn't prevent them from taking the #1 contenders match and just ripping it out of his hands, and taking away his #1 contendership. And with anything, what Billy has proven in the last year is that loyalty isn't really that much rewarded with the NWA. Tim Storm was extremely loyal to the company, and then he was put on the back burner and only allowed to participate in some wrestling events, all the while being extremely loyal. Nick Aldis, who's been extremely loyal to the company, recently had his world title match revoked because of a tweet, because of politicking. And that's the worst thing is Billy Corgan makes me defend Nick Aldis, which makes me want to be sick to my stomach. But the whole point of them revoking his title opportunity when he won it fair and square, I think is a bunch of horse shit. And then on top of all that, like you look at some of the talent that have been there since day one that gets superseded every time a new talent comes in. You bring Mike Knox in and he's attacking Trevor Murdoch, and there's no repercussions for that. Like there's no suspensions, there's no fine. Well, at least not verbally expressed. But there's no like the dude was on the next pay-per-view, and then they bring in Matt Cardona, and Matt Cardona's out there downplaying the NWA the entire time, saying how it's broken, how it needs to be fixed, and really putting down the NWA more so than anybody prior to him had done. And he's rewarded with a title shot. Loyalty,
title.
Yeah. Loyalty isn't rewarded in the NWA under the current regime. It just isn't.
Yeah, why isn't the Pope being rewarded?
I mean, they talked about his opportunities against Matt Cardona. They talked about his opportunities to qualify for that title shot, the race for the chase triple threat match that they did. Well, I mean, Brian Myers cheated to win that match. And then when they threw Nick Aldis out of that title match, instead of maybe giving the Pope the opportunity or another match with another triple threat match to get that going, no, they're just going to give it to Tyrus, who, again, Tyrus wasn't here when back in 2017. Tyrus wasn't here in 2019 either. Tyrus showed up post-pandemic. And again, what was he given? Golden opportunity to compete for the television title. Loyalty is not rewarded.
Yeah, I think Tyrus would have been better beneficial with a golden shower. But either way, I agree with you. It's well, I can't say maybe I disagree with you. Maybe it's loyalty to all his old friends. All his old friends have loyalty, and maybe none of his new friends do.
I mean, you might be onto something. DK, do you guys want to talk about our USA episode this week?
USA.
Ooh, oh no! Wait a minute. That's Uso. Never mind. Wrong show.
Yeah, DK. Let's talk about NWA USA.
NWA USA. And it started with a match in the ring, a tag team match. Between Jack Stain and Magic Mike Dumbass.
It's Jake Dumas
with Christy James versus Brett Buffet.
Buffet,
that's what I said. And Billy Bob Silas with Poya Damar. And of course, there's no reason for Jackson and Jake Dumas to be teaming with each other, so that's why they put him in a tag team. So naturally, Jack Stain doesn't show because, why would he? And so now Dumbass and Buffet are going to be in a handicap match Or no, wait a minute. I'm sorry, I'm wrong. Buffet and Billy Bob are going to be in a handicap match against Dumbass. And so Jaden, what do you think of the fact that there was a handicap match first thing with these three competitors, Dumbass, Buffet, and Billy Bob?
If I was in charge, I would have completely forgot about the dumbass part and just made Jack Stain win a handicap match and kill the two guys. That would have been good money. That would have been good television. Of course, they do the opposite thing to good television, and they decide to put that match together. I didn't like the match. Honestly, I didn't like anything about it. I didn't like nothing, and nothing involved impressed me.
It was weird. And, you know, there was a point where Dumbass was going for his dumb hat, and Christie had taken it, and then I couldn't figure that out. And then what happened with Billy Bob? Didn't he and Pollo disappear under the ring or something? Apparently it was make-out time or something. I don't know what the deal was. So then Dumbass ends up winning the match. And nobody cared. Not one person. And so,
yeah, I think it was just a waste of television time. I don't like the gimmick. I don't like stupid gimmicks. I don't like stupid wrestling. I don't like bad booking. And that's basically everything that it was.
So out comes Jack Stain's attorney, Bray Wyatt.
Yes.
We were wondering what happened to him. So out comes Jack Dane's attorney, Chris Silvio, and he and Kyle tells Kyle Davis that Jack Dane's already fulfilled his contract things, and Mercury shows up and starts talking, and I stopped listening.
Do you mean Mercutio?
Yeah, Mercury. That's what I said. And
he's trying to take Jim Cornette's gimmick and do it in a completely less successful way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, look, long when I've not gotten names right, it's been because my point was nobody cares. And
You're both getting things wrong. DK can't get the gimmick right, and Jay doesn't know how to put a hat on a hat. He just keeps putting on a different hat.
I know how to put a hat on a hat. But Jay's gimmick tonight is hats. But anyway, he shows up and something about his Visa, because he's not worried about his Visa because he uses MasterCard. I stopped listening. I don't know. Jaden, tell me how much you loved the segment with Mercury, Silvio, and the difference between a work Visa and a MasterCard.
I kept hitting the 10-second forward button until I got into some more wrestling, so that should probably tell you.
Oh, man, you hit that button a lot.
Yeah, it really did take a while to get there.
Because then the next thing up was the Cardona family with Mae Valentine, which this was actually one of her better, more recent interviews with Mike Knox, putting down Bully Ray and talking about their tables match at 74th. I didn't listen that much.
Sorry.
They did a preview for Power, talk about how, the dinosaur Ricky Morton would be wrestling a wrecking ball. And, of course, get your Bandu NWA belt. So then we finally had a second match.
Real quick, on that NWA Power, he's going to come in like a wrecking ball.
Sorry, that was funny. Good job.
Okay. First of all, Jaden's never allowed to sing again, and he's certainly not allowed to sing Miley Cyrus. In fact, I don't like to allow Miley Cyrus to sing Miley Cyrus. So.
Yeah, but Miley Cyrus sings everybody else pretty well. I mean, her version of Jolene's pretty great, and I Wish You Were Here is pretty good. So
her Flaming Lips with duet with Strawberry Fields, I think. Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. Her and Flaming Lips do a good rendition of that. So anyway, Jaden, after about 20 minutes of hitting his fast forward button, finally stops at Jamie Stanley versus KC Rocks with Aaron Stevens. And I'm just going to say here that I am already over Aaron Stevens in this particular role. And
you sound like the WWE.
What?
You sound like the WWE. You're already over him. Everywhere he's been, he kind of burns out.
And so I'm kind of done with this particular version of Aaron Stevens. I don't know. What do you think of the match, Jaden?
I think Jamie Stanley looks like he could actually do something and be something in this professional wrestling business. So, of course, they have him losing this match to a guy who I think I've taken craps bigger than, especially when I eat blueberries. And Aaron Stevens is kind of like if you order Paulie Dangerously on Wish right now. I got to use that joke twice in one Alliance Guys podcast. Yeah, I do like Aaron Stevens, but I don't like him in this role. I don't understand why they're not pushing Jamie Stanley because it looks like he could actually do something. I thought that this might have been a contenders match for the junior heavyweight, but they didn't really mention anything like there. I don't know, wasted opportunity, and I wish Jamie Stanley was probably pushed better.
I said the same thing a few weeks ago. I think Jamie Stanley's a guy who could be very versatile for the NWA, and in a promotion that is severely lacking baby faces, that guy I think could kill as a baby face. I think he could get over and stay over, and you're right. I think that they're not using him in a very good way. That would be mutually beneficial for both the NWA and himself.
They actually seem to be moving him babyface, as we'll talk about more later. But, Aaron Stevens did get the cheap shot, which allowed the win. But, yeah, it was a match that I didn't know I wanted to see, and then I watched it, and then I knew I didn't want to see it. And so that was done. And then we had the main event, which was Homicide versus PJ Hawks for the NWA World Junior Heavyweight Championship.
I bet that was good.
You know what? It actually started with a collar and elbow tie-up. Can you believe that? And so, tell me about this match. Tell me how you love this match.
I actually did like this match. Homicide in the ring has become a major bright spot in the NWA, in my opinion. He's always been a very good wrestler. I actually did enjoy this match. I think Hawk seemed slightly off. I think he is maybe just coming back from injury. At least he was at that point. But I liked it. I think it was a good win for Homicide. I think Hawk looked good in the showing and maybe potentially could be a junior heavyweight champion in the future. I don't know. I enjoyed the match, and I didn't have a doubt Homicide was winning, but I wasn't disappointed in the fact that he did win.
Yeah, it was a very good match between these two. It was a good main event. I think it showcased the junior heavyweights well. Both of them had a lot of talent. Of course, we know PJ is very good at working his amateur style into his pro matches so that it fits and it works well. A couple of small botches, but nothing to, ring anybody.
Nothing a good editor could have found and fixed.
Right. And nothing to really ring anybody's neck over. And so this is one of those cases, if you were to ask me to rate the show, I'd tell you it's a good show, but I'll tell you it's a really good show if you only watch the main event.
Yeah. Can we just get a Homicide wrestling 3 times on on USA and eliminate some of the stupid stuff? We might actually get something worth watching.
I mean, especially if they could somehow manage to get Rhett Titus back on the show on a regular basis too.
Well, I actually know for a fact Rhett's moving down into the Virginia area, so maybe.
Hopefully.
Well, so the TV tapings are happening in Nashville, so I don't know that being in Virginia makes it that much better. I mean, it's still an air flight. I don't know, I don't know if it's a much shorter drive from Virginia or from New Jersey. I'm not stellar at geography, but I still, I don't think that Billy Corgan is not booking people because of airfare. I mean, there was at one point half the roster was from California, and they were doing the show in Atlanta. It didn't make any damn sense.
Wait, you've tried to make sense out of what Billy does?
Yes. I didn't say it was my best business decision, DK. I just said it's something I do.
I was going to say, and how is that working for you? All right, so that was USA. We had one good match.
There's 5 hours driving savings though if he drives to Nashville. So if that helps.
Say that one more time. I didn't hear you.
There's 5 hours that the Rhett the Threat Titus would save driving from Virginia to Nashville, if that helps.
Okay. I mean, it certainly would, right? Certainly would.
I think so. So
all right,
tell me about Power.
So Power, this is weird dichotomy, man, because like what you guys mentioned on USA, the only thing that sounded good to me was that main event of PJ and Homicide. I mean, I like Jamie Stanley, but it didn't sound like that was much of a fun match either. But as I go here and I look at Power and watching it and really digesting it, some of the stuff was just again, what are we doing here? I mean, the show kicks off with an impromptu ladder match between Mike Knox. What's that?
Tables match.
Yeah, I was getting there. Oh, I said ladder match. Okay, sorry. You're right. Tables match between Mike Knox and Devin Graves. Now, Graves is a guy that we haven't really seen much of on our TV. In fact, he's only been in the NWA 3 other times before tonight. Now, he is invited to be part of the NWA USA Tag Team Battle Royal, where he teams with his partner Deontay. Now, the first time we saw Graves, he lost to Miguel Robles. The second time we saw him, he lost to Rodney Mack. And then the third time we saw him, he was teaming with his said partner Deontay, and they lost to the Ill Begotten. So to say that Devin Graves has had a huge victory road in the NWA, well, that's just not accurate. Now we know Mike Knox is going to be in a tables match, which I guess that's the reason why they decided to book this. But see, I really feel like when you do this, when you like have a ladder match, or excuse me, a tables match, I keep saying ladder. When you have a tables match to build up to another tables match, I mean, the whole point of it, of these specialty matches, is that it's accumulation of a feud of, two personalities that just don't like each other. And Devin Graves has done nothing to Mike Knox. Devin Graves is a speck in the grand chasm that is the NWA. He's a nothing, nobody, never will be. Hopefully he proves me wrong. I don't mean to be a jerk about the guy, but he has nothing to do with Mike Knox. So why are we doing this in a ladder or a table match? Why are we doing this in a table match? What's the point? It didn't build to this. It didn't. There's no reason to have this kind of a match. If you wanted to put him through a table after the fact, or just have him lose the match by putting this kid through a table, then that would have been perfectly suffice and would have built towards that table match with Bully Ray. But this was not that. It's like, why? This was dumb. And the match itself was dumb. Again, we have VSK trash talking the entire time. The referee has no semblance of any kind of rules. They just got to do whatever the hell you want.
There aren't any rules.
Huh?
Because there aren't any rules. What's the line, Jaden?
Lazy booking.
Yeah, talking about stealing from Jim Cornette. Anyway, yeah, I mean, there are no rules because there's only one way to win the match. And see, here's what would happen. let's say we brought Mike Knox out against Devin Graves in a regular match. They're both kind of bigger guys. And after getting a little bit frustrated with him, he yells at VSK, who sets up a table, brings it in the ring. Knox puts it through and gets disqualified because, because Mike Knox isn't caring about winning or losing. He's sending a message to, Bully Ray. I put you through a table. I put this big guy through a table. What was it Ox Baker used to say? I like to hurt people.
Yeah.
So there would be character development in Mike Knox that might make him almost interesting. If Mike Knox, since the time that he put Bully Ray through the table, if he'd had 3 or 4 matches where he basically beats him up and gets disqualified because he doesn't care about whether he wins or loses, he's just showing how he's going to beat the crap out of Bully Ray. See, that's character development. And then you go, I want this guy to get planted through a table and get beat up because he's taking advantage of these poor young guys. And now, now I have an interest in the match because, Bully Ray's, old, but he's big and, he might be able to handle him and he might be able to put him through a table. And so now I'm interested. But I'm watching him wrestle this guy I don't care about, who doesn't win, who gets attacked by VSK, and then they put him through a table. So, Jaden, just listening to that, just listening to the description of the match there, which would you think that Dr. C would book? Would he book a character development? Or would he book here's a tables match because he's going to have one later?
He probably wouldn't have booked either wrestler, but that's
we're not talking about that.
We're going to go hypothetical on that situation. I think he would have actually booked, especially if he was doing television, long-term storyline and proper build-up to a match to make it worth something. Maybe even just afterwards throw in every wrestler through a table afterwards just to build up that tables match. Because we all know that's the only thing apparently Bully Ray is known for is throwing people through tables. Yeah. But you know what? I think Bully Ray's at a huge disadvantage. He's never got the table himself.
I know. There's no Devon to yell to.
Yeah. So he might be at a huge disadvantage. He might not know where the tables are.
Who is he going to call to help him? Devon retired.
Hey, question.
Yes.
Would you or would you not mark out if Devon came out and he yelled, "Get the table," and all he does is set the table up ringside and walks out?
No, I think that would be a terrific spot. I don't think he's going to be doing it.
I'm not. The only reason I'm bringing this up is because I know it's not going to happen. But I'm just saying, would you mark out if that did?
Yes.
I'd laugh harder if he just yelled, "Get your own damn table,"
and then walked out. That'd be great.
I can't argue that.
Media says that at the roast of Ric Flair that they called Bully Ray a racist for always asking Devon to get the table. He never got it him damn self. All right, so let's go back to Power. Obviously,
why?
Because that's what we do here.
Because we're masochists.
Yes, and now you know the rest of the story. Now this part again, I didn't quite understand why Jordan Clearwater was ringside with Black G's at the announce table. You had Kyle Davis at the podium, and so it starts off with Jordan Clearwater asking Kyle Davis to count his ribs, yeah, you're fit, you're good muscular dude. Okay, cool.
Ribs.
What did I say?
You said ribs.
Oh, jeez. Sorry, I'm hungry. I haven't had dinner yet. But the whole interview is focused on Scion, who's not there. And it's G's putting over Scion in his shot at Jack Staines in the National Heavyweight Championship. Now, what I did like about this is G's is pretty good at cutting a promo, right? And he kind of he definitely puts over Jack Stain. Really sells the fact that he's a former world champion, former two-time national champion, former tag champion, and really does a good job of explaining to you why Jack Stain is who he is why he is.
While pointing out also that it's former.
Yes. And that was a good twist to it. But again, like this should have just been Black G's out there. I think having Jordan Clearwater out there took away from the promo. If you're going to have Clearwater there, Clearwater should have said something about the match with Joe Alonzo later in the night, but didn't even talk about it. Didn't even acknowledge it. So it's just one of those segments that I'm like, you could have done better. Did you have anything you want to add to that one, DK?
Well, he did such a good job of putting over Jack Stain as well as Scion, but primarily, talking about Jack, that I was kind of surprised he didn't start the promo with "My name is."
Yeah. Well,
because it was very much in that vein, and he did it very well. This was probably one of the first times that he did not annoy the crap out of me.
What if? Hear me out. We see a separation of Idolmania Sports Management and the church's money. And that night one, in that match, Black G's helps Jack Stain win that match. And now Black G's is now managing Jack Stain. And we have a separation between Tyrus and Scion, who are in Idolmania, and Jordan Clearwater and Marche Rocket and Jack Stain form another stable with Black G's. What would you think about that?
If they had a loser must retire match where Idol loses, and I don't mean between each other. I mean, between whoever they're managing. I don't like Idol, so I don't have a problem if they break them up, and they have kind of suggested that there is tension because Billy loves the tension. So I can see it happen, and I don't have any major things. I don't trust him to actually tell a good story with it, but I can see it happen.
I didn't see this, but by the description, it sounds like, knowing what I know about G's too, it sounds like they're setting up the new national champion Scion, because you build up the wrestler that you're going to beat, so that way you beat somebody so you look like a bigger person.
Right.
Yeah.
No, and you're 100% right. I know that's that old school mentality. The promo is like, if you beat a loser, then what are you bragging about? You beat a loser. You should have beat the loser. But when you put them over and say, hey, you're a great competitor, and you're going to test me to my limit, but at the end of the day, I'm going to beat you. Like that's a hell of a lot better to hang your hat on. But let's get to the next segment. We got May Valentine in the back with the Pope. May asks the Pope if he has a chance of beating Murdoch. I really don't like the way they've changed May's delivery, where she used to be kind of this, like, she used to be a very sweet person who, like, maybe would say something incorrectly to kind of insult somebody. But now I feel like they're just doing it on purpose. And, like, what kind of question are you asking a wrestler? Do you have any chance of beating this wrestler? Well, if they didn't think they had a chance in beating that wrestler, they wouldn't be there. Well, right? I mean, that's the whole part of competition, right?
Not necessarily. A lot of guys fought Mike Tyson knowing they were going to get their ass kicked.
Okay, but this isn't
so
Mike
a big
Tyson.
Payoff.
Well, sure, but this isn't Mike Tyson. And we're talking about Trevor Murdoch, who, let's face it, has been beaten for that title. It's not like we're talking about somebody who's never lost a match or somebody who's unbreakable. Like, he's lost. And so I don't know. It felt very rude to me.
Well, here's the difference. May used to ask questions that fans were thinking.
Yeah.
That would, yes, they could be like rude in their nature, like telling Chris Adonis, well, you never defend your national title. But that's what all the fans are thinking. Now she's just kind of asking these weird questions, but the fans aren't necessarily thinking to themselves. They don't sit there and go, I don't know, does Pope think that he can actually beat Murdoch? Some of us, wanting about 3 to 6 months for Pope to beat Murdoch.
Yeah.
And everything. So I don't know. I haven't been a fan of how they're using her, and we'll get more into that again later in the show.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's finish this up. Again, since losing the TV title, Pope has lost to Mike Knox. He's lost to Matt Cardona, and he's lost to Brian Myers, all in singles action. The only victory he has since losing the TV title was against Colby Carino. So, Pope needs to look strong tonight, and we'll get to that later, obviously. Next up,
I have a question I'm curious about.
Sure.
Is May Valentine really dating single Aaron?
I don't think so.
Not to my knowledge.
Because that's,
to be perfectly honest, I'm not even 100% sure how May identifies.
Oh. I know that in the past May's had boyfriends.
I know she has, but she's also hinted towards having girlfriends.
Well,
so,
hey.
She's never come out directly and said it. I'm just saying I don't know.
It's 2022, man. Lighten up. Anyways, we get
I'm just saying I don't know.
I was teasing. We get Wrecking Ball Legursky versus Ricky Morton. I know this is the match we've all been waiting for. Again, highs and lows, man. Last week I really felt Power was a good show, and I'm looking at this and I'm like, I do not want to watch a 60-year-old man wrestle, period. I don't care if you're Ric Flair. I don't care if you're Ricky Morton or Hulk Hogan or... No, there comes a time when it's time to hang them up and leave them hung up. I don't want to see a 60-year-old wrestle. What's worse than that is I don't want to see somebody in their prime bumping for a 60-year-old. I just don't. So before this match even started, I didn't even want to watch it. And I'll be honest with you, I wasn't entrenched in this match like I probably should have been. The announcers keep saying that Ricky demanded this match to teach the Wrecking Ball some respect. Come on, old man. That's not how it works these days. You're not going to get someone to respect you anymore. Your illustrious career that should have ended in 1995 and hung on even longer than it should have. That's great, but you're at least 25 years past your prime, and that's being generous. And I don't ever need to see Ricky Morton in the ring again. I keep saying that, and they keep putting his ass back in the ring. So,
stop saying it then.
Yeah, right. Well, the match seems to be all Legursky. For whatever reason, he's going to really hurt Ricky Morton this time. So he pulls off the turnbuckle pad, and then in an effort to smash Morton into it. However, the wily veteran moves out of the way. Wrecking Ball gets backfired, and Morton gets the win. DK, your thoughts on this one?
I don't want to give my thoughts on this one. Well, first of all, I do want to do one thing. I want to go back to we talked about the Pope's interview with May, and let's do give Pope credit for giving a very tantalizing, energetic, Pope-tacular promo.
The Pope was Pope.
So he was great as usual for his promo. So despite what May had to say, he did well. I did not care about this match. I barely watched the match. I think I went to the kitchen to make a sandwich or bacon or something manly or whatever, and I come back. I come back just in time to watch Wrecking Ball take the turnbuckle off and the whole. And of course, as soon as that happened, I knew what was going to happen, and it was just, please stop putting Ricky Morton in the ring. Ricky Morton, please stop getting in the ring. I mean, you're only you're close to Ric Flair, and people were scared about Ric Flair getting in the ring at 70, whatever he is. And, you know, Ricky Morton's like, what, 10 years behind him? I mean, he's getting to that point. Nobody wanted to see Ric Flair in the ring when he was in his 60s. And it's just bad. It's bad in that the matches are bad. And he's 65. He is freaking 65 years old. He's 8 years younger than Ric Flair. So any idiot out there that's saying Ric Flair should not be stepping in the ring needs to be talking about Ricky Morton should not be stepping in the ring.
But 65 is the new 40.
Yes, but 65 in a day is the new 103. And so, you know, Ric Flair's already walking back his last match comments. So,
did you guys hear? And I know this is off topic, but since we were talking about Flair, that they said he has passed out twice in that match due to dehydration. I don't need to see these old men die in the ring. I don't want that.
Well, that's the claim. I don't know how true it is or isn't. But,
I don't know. I think Terry Funk coming out of retirement might draw a few crowd.
Oh, Jesus Christ. The guy's suffering from dementia.
That would probably not make him any different than the way he normally was.
Real quick, media, because you asked, or because you brought up Judo Gene LaBelle, he actually passed away on Tuesday night. I was at Championship Wrestling from Irvine, the United Wrestling Network show, and Dave Marquez, who did know Judo Gene LaBelle. Dave Marquez kind of grew up working at the Grand Olympic Auditorium. His family were vendors many years ago, so he knew Gene LaBelle and knew him quite well, actually, and he had been sick for a while. I even asked Dave, I said, so where do you think that LaBelle library is? Because that's like a very highly spoken about video vault, and he says he thinks it's in a salt mine in Utah somewhere, which that sounds crazy to me, but that's been a rumor that's been going around for a while, I guess. But yeah, he passed away. I think he was like 96 years old. I might be wrong on the age, but he was up there. He was also battling sickness as well.
I want to make one small correction, though, for a lot of people. A lot of people talk about how he was the promoter for, you know, the old NWA thing there in the area. He wasn't the promoter. It was his brother,
Mike LaBelle.
Who was the
and that actually it was Eileen Eaton who was the promoter for many years. Their mom, which that's a crazy story in and of itself. That's a made for TV movie right there. But
and by the way, everybody hated Mike LaBelle.
Yeah. Well, Mike LaBelle sold out to McMahon. You know, like a lot of the territories did back in the day. And that family made a lot of money off the deal that they signed with Vince.
But he pay it to him.
What's that?
Did he actually pay it?
He didn't actually pay it to him, if I recall correctly.
Oh, I heard
stepped him on that money.
I heard different, but, you know.
He might have paid them. It was the Hearts that he ended up not paying.
I heard that they got paid very handsomely for the market. So, but let's jump back into more NWA Power. Next up, we get Jamie Stanley in the back, who now this makes a little bit more sense after hearing you guys talk about USA. He's in the back, and this time he's the one doing the interview, and he's interviewing Mae Valentine and Aaron Stevens. How the turntables have churned. Stanley is asking Mae the stupid questions this time, and again, like, you know, now that I know what this is connected to, it makes a little bit more sense. But before I knew that, I was like, well, why are we watching this? This isn't adding entertainment value to me, and it's not perpetuating a match. But maybe it is now that we've talked about it. But Stanley asks Mae if Stevens thinks he's better than him, which Mae replies, he is better than you. And then Stevens replies with, Mae's right. And that's the end of the segment. That's it. Now, again, Jamie Stanley, I think, is entirely underutilized. And if this is building to some sort of match between the two, then now I kind of understand that they maybe were planting seeds. But in his role right now, Stevens is mostly retired, and Jamie Stanley's a young dude who should definitely be wrestling every week. So, DK, what'd you think of this one?
It had one very good quality.
It ended?
It was short.
Oh.
Outside of that, I wish I had sneezed so I had missed it.
Yeah, it just wasn't very good. And again, that this is a program that we're sorry guys.
Apparently it's nothing to sneeze at.
It's a program that we're paying for, and I mean, I granted this is free on YouTube, but we talked a few weeks ago about, oh yeah, if Billy's shopping this, I mean, what is he shopping? Because I can't think a network executive could see this and see whatever numbers they're pulling on YouTube, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000, and the numbers are pulling on Fight and go, yeah, you know what? I am going to pick up this show and I'm going to pay you $1 million for it. Like, that's not going to happen. It's not.
Maybe he's shopping it to cure insomnia.
I do want to have one response here to the chat.
Yeah.
Doty goes, 9,000 people want to see Ric Flair in the ring in the 70s and not counted the pay-per-view buyers. I don't agree with that statement. There may have been 9,000 people there, and they may have had a large gate, and they may have done decent pay-per-views numbers. I don't know one way or the other. But I would tell you that Ric Flair was probably the smallest amount of the thing. Let's not forget that they had the StarCast stuff and all the special people coming in and doing things. And they actually had one hell of a card. And I was actually interested in the card and would have watched it if it had not been for Ric Flair. In the thing, I mean, seriously, I
got you.
I told people, I could not pay to support that. So, and I know other people who felt the same way, and not by a small number. There are a lot of people who said that they could not, they were interested in the card, but they could not, pay and support Ric Flair being in that match. Whether he did or didn't pass out because of dehydration and blood loss or whatever else. So they put together a good card, and they proved that a good card can draw. But, if you had put just a standard BS show, indie show together and put that on top, I don't think you get half that.
Next up, we get Jordan Clearwater taking on Joe Alonzo. Now, I implore any of you who like Jordan Clearwater, what you see of him in the NWA, to go check out New Japan Strong, to go check out Championship Wrestling, United Wrestling Network, and watch Jordan Clearwater actually wrestle. Now, this was a good match. I'm not gonna say it's not, but you get a different Jordan Clearwater outside of the NWA, and I get why he does the goofy stuff, the hip swivel and all that, and it's a lot of Tchotchke style of wrestling. But you go watch Jordan Clearwater in Championship Wrestling. Since he's won the United Wrestling Network World Championship, he's fought Frankie Kazarian, Chris Adonis, and most recently Colt Cabana. Well, Colt Cabana is former NWA World Champion. Frankie Kazarian, I don't think he held an Impact World title, but was an X Division champion, held the tag titles in Ring of Honor. Chris Adonis, former NWA national champion, 2-time. His style of competition keeps increasing. He's wrestling dudes that are making him better in the ring. And it's so refreshing to actually watch him have good wrestling. Now, this is the first time I remember seeing Jordan Clearwater wrestle in a singles match in a while. In fact, he hasn't won a singles match in over a year in the NWA. Like, not a single match. And he hasn't even had that many single matches in the NWA. And most of the time he's there, being like the sidekick to Tyrus or being the sidekick to Marche or whatever. But, like, the kid can wrestle. Let him wrestle. We see that tonight. Him and Alonzo put on a really good match. Joe Alonzo is like just desperate for attention. He's telling the Joe Galley to follow him on social media. And I think Alonzo might be a future star for the NWA. I feel like Clearwater could be a bigger star for them right now if they keep putting him in matches like this. The church's money, Black G's gets involved just ever so slightly, not enough to really take it away from the show, take away from the match. So you know, Jordan Clearwater mostly gets a clean victory with his Midas touch, and this is probably the best match, the best part of the show that I've seen so far. DK, your thoughts?
Yeah.
Such conviction.
Winning the world title for United Wrestling Network has probably been beneficial for his career in the NWA in the sense that he's at least been being booked better. Not as good as he is in the other promotions, but at least better. And Matthew Underwood, weird how these AEW guys book with David, not Billy. Well, no, not really. One, Billy's not as interested in him, and two, he and Tony are currently having a little bit of a tiff, and so he's back to it.
And three, they have some history with David Marquez too.
Yeah, there's also so far most of these guys that have come in do have history with Dave Marquez. Frankie Kazarian and Dave Marquez worked together in the early Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, also in UPW. Same thing with Chris Adonis, and then Colt Cabana. Obviously, I mean, Colt Cabana was Dave Marquez's world champion on multiple occasions and took him to China to wrestle against Nick Aldis. But also there's a pipeline there too between Hollywood and AEW. A lot of the talents, just recently we saw some members of the Wingbin show up in the United Wrestling Network. I can't remember his name right now. You guys are going to kill me. He's one of the wingmen, but he's like the silver fox of the group. He's got the flat top with the salt and pepper in his hair. You guys know who I'm talking about or no? You don't watch it. I don't watch it,
so I don't know.
But like there's, Matthew Underwood said Ryan Nemeth, but no, he's a huskier guy from, I think he's from like West Virginia. I can't think of his name right now. JD Drake. He had a great match with Pablo Esco just a few weeks ago that they filmed. I think it'll be on TV this week. Obviously Peter Avalon is still helping to produce the show, that Championship Wrestling, and they had Caesar. I'm not going to say his last name right. The guy from Brazil, Cesar something or other and he's great too. They all had
who's booking it? Who's the booker out there now?
For a while it was Aaron Stevens, but I think it's Peter Avalon now. I think
Peter's gone back.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, anyways,
I was curious. I remember that Stevens was booking, and then I never kind of heard anything. And with the NWA split and everything, I wasn't sure how long that would.
I mean, I think it's still a positive relationship between Dave Marquez and Aaron Stevens, but I do know Aaron Stevens has publicly said that he's looking to do different things now. And I know recently he's been at two different wrestling schools, one in Canada and one recently, I think, in the Dominican Republic, or maybe in one of the Caribbean islands where they were doing pro wrestling, like not really training, but like seminars and stuff. So, I mean, he's on a different path right now. I don't know that he wants to be tied down to any one promotion. And, I don't know what his future is with the NWA either. But
well, that was kind of like with James Storm even. James Storm, when he left the NWA, made it very clear he didn't have any problems working with the NWA, but that he just didn't want to be tied to any given promotion. And getting back to Clearwater in this match,
real quick, Caesar Bononi, whatever. Okay, go ahead.
That just getting back into the, he looked better than he's looked, and his gimmick's a little bit of a take on the Rick Rude gimmick, and hell, why not? I mean, certainly enough people use gimmicks based on, older wrestlers and former wrestlers and stuff like that. I'm not one of those purists that thinks, nobody can use the hammer because Greg Valentine was called the Hammer. And yes, I have met people in the wrestling business who are that petty.
Yeah.
And it's just, I saw someone here talk about Clearwater should be the TV champion or whatever. And, maybe, I guess it was Matthew. And, maybe after he drops the United Wrestling title, because it's just kind of weird. I don't know that it's one thing for your champion not to be recognized and to win or lose matches like Ty Valkyrie or whatever, but it's something else when it's like, here's my world champion. Oh, but over here in this other organization, they hold like the third level title. And I just, I don't think you want that. It's one thing after you've had your run with them and, you're done or whatever. But I don't even know where Watts is anymore, Willie. I don't know that he wrestles.
He's very few and far between matches, mostly SoCal Indies.
And
why is Bill Watts still wrestling? He's like in his 90s.
I think that Watts is dead. We're talking about his son Eric.
Oh, yeah. No. Anyway, the weird thing. Well, he was older too, wasn't he? I mean, he wasn't
Watts.
Yeah. Was he
Watts is about the same age as Willie Mack. I mean, the age isn't too far off. They kind of broke in around the same time.
Well, Willie ain't no spring chicken either, but
no. But see, you say that right, but I've been watching Willie Mack wrestle since like almost the beginning. So it's like when you say that, I'm like, oh yeah, I've been watching Willie Mack wrestle for years, but like now it's like decades. Like 15 years, I think. I've been watching Willie Mack wrestle.
I mean, because Willie Mack was already pretty well established when Pierce was champion the first time. Look how long it's been since Pierce was champion. My point is, I think, a lot of people don't realize wrestlers don't necessarily officially retire or whatever. They, a lot of them just kind of cut back and then stop working one day. Even our co-host Kevin, I ended up being at his last match, not because it was his last match, but because he just stopped wrestling after it.
He'll probably have one in his 50s now that he has a kid, just to show his kid that he can wrestle.
Like the Goldberg.
Yeah.
All right, so we're getting close. We're over the 2-hour mark, so let's kind of wrap things up a little bit.
No, because then we'd have to go back to the show.
Well, the show was, now you're at the part of the show where it gets better. So we have May Valentine in the back with Angelina Love. Now, this is the May Valentine that I remember. This is the May Valentine that I enjoy. And she just asked her, hey, what's your aspirations here in the NWA? We know that your best friend, Velvet Sky, that you had tag team titles with, that she's not active anymore. She's retired. What are your aspirations? And Love is like, she wants a shot at the Burke. She's a 7-time women's world champion. Again, I hate the fact that they borrow from Impact, but okay, so we're going to recognize her 7 world titles in Impact. And that she hints, well, the hints drop really quick. She totally just points out that Velvet Sky still has a opportunity, that championship series opportunity from last year that hasn't been used yet. And if Velvet Sky is going to go talk to, Angelina Love is going to go talk to Velvet Sky about perhaps maybe using that, since Velvet Sky isn't going to use that. I thought it was a decent promo. Again, that was the end. That was the May Valentine that I've appreciated in the past. DK, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, it's weird how they zigzag her in and out of being an actual backstage interviewer and being a caricature. But yeah, it was a better one. I'm not the biggest Angelina Love fan, but I thought she did well, and what she said made sense. And even talking about Velvet Sky's championship opportunity that she could bestow on someone and things like that. They have teased a little bit of dissension between Sky and Love. So it would be interesting to see if Sky would be willing to use her title cash in for Love. Or
Wait. Are you saying that Billy Corgan's booking dissension among people?
No, I would never say that, because we know that never happens.
Oh, okay.
But it would be interesting to see if maybe on night 1 or night 2 or after a particularly brutal match, if they wouldn't try to cash in on Camille or Taya or whoever, Maxine Paler.
Yeah. Okay, so let's finish this up. The final match of the night is the non-title match. Now, before they get to the ring, Kyle Davis now has the Pope at the podium. So it's 2 promos for the Pope in one night. And usually that's a good thing. But again, continuity, man. It's just, I don't know. It doesn't feel like it matches. So basically he says that Trevor asked for this, that he's going to give it to him. He kind of says, like, even tires go flat sometimes. You just need to put some air in them. And that's kind of an interesting analogy there, that they're still friends, just that relationship slightly strained, but they'll get back to it at some point. Right off the bat, Trevor is very aggressive in this match. He's forcing Pope into the corner. The referee literally has to pull Murdoch off of the Pope. And that's something you traditionally see in like a heated feud. But this is a situation where the Pope still thinks that he's friends with Murdoch, and he doesn't really understand why they've had this falling out. And Murdoch is not really one to give a lot of answers. The match goes from parts where it looks like it would be a clean bout to it just being anything but that. But the general consensus is that Murdoch is just not going to give Pope the match that Pope wants, and it's going to be a lot more aggressive and a lot rougher. I kind of felt like the Pope was outmatched during a lot of this match, and at some point the match spills out to the outside where they continue to battle, and minutes away from Trevor getting to pile drive his former buddy, his former pal, he just lets him go, and he kind of collapses on the concrete. He sets him down, and the match ends in a count out. It's a very peculiar way to end it, and I don't know if that means that there's going to be some sort of unity down the road, or if this is just more dissension between the ranks. And maybe Pope will be the guy, not Jax, not Tom Latimer, but maybe Pope will be the next guy to challenge Trevor Murdoch. I thought it was a good match, but like I said, it just seemed a little weird to have the ending that it had. Pope definitely needed a victory tonight, but I guess Trevor Murdoch couldn't go into the 74th anniversary show with a loss. DK, what did you think of this one?
I enjoyed the match. I think once Pope got going, he looked good. Once he accepted the style of match that it was, he had Murdoch nearly beat a couple times. I didn't fully understand the ending. The argument was that Murdoch didn't throw him over the top, but it kind of looked to me like he did.
Yeah.
But they're saying he just dropped him on the top rope and he went over on his own. But to me, it looked like he kind of helped him go over, intentionally or not.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of expecting the DQ there, but instead they just go out. Pope seemed partly alive by the time Trevor was picking him up for the pile driver. But then when he chose not to do it, he looked like he was, unconscious. And so I was a little confused as to what happened there.
Maybe Trevor didn't wash his gear.
Farted. I don't know. Something happened that took care of Pope. And the referee counted to 20, and they tried to explain why it was a 20 count instead of a 10 count, but they never actually finished their statement. But again, it had something to do with because Pope went out by momentum instead of choosing to go out or something like that. It didn't make, like I said, they didn't finish the statement. It didn't make a lot of sense the way they started. It was almost like they realized they weren't making sense, so they just decided not to complete the statement. And look, to me, 20 counts were fine. World Class used a 20 count. World Class actually had a very weird rule that they would occasionally put in there. In World Class, if you were on the ring, but out of the ring, like, when they stick their heads through, the middle and top rope, or if they're standing out on the apron, that was a 10 count. But if you were on the floor, that was a 20 count. And ROH used 20 counts, which started with Pure, and then they put it into the thing. And so I don't really have a problem with a 20 count on the ring. If you actually count 20 and, correctly, and, don't let them out there for 5 minutes before you start the count, I think it's a good way to get, probably 30, 40 seconds of outside the ring activity. Because, I don't have a problem with them yelling at them, hey, get back in the ring, get back in the ring. Okay, now I'm going to start counting. But, so, yeah, the ending was weird for me in the sense that I thought Murdoch should have been disqualified. I didn't understand why he wasn't disqualified, and I didn't understand why they counted 20, and I didn't understand why Pope went from woozy but conscious to unconscious laying on the thing. And to me, that distracted from the idea that Trevor Murdoch was going through a personal struggle about whether he should pile drive Pope on the concrete or not. And I wasn't worried about that as much as I was like, okay, this doesn't make sense to me. But get back to the match in the ring. I thought the match in the ring was a good match. I'd like to see these two run it back in actual, an actual title match, or develop a feud that would be interesting. But again, I have no faith that Billy will do it. So that's my thoughts on the show altogether.
So, Jane, you didn't watch the show, but what did you think about our review? What do you think? Did anything that we said sound interesting? Anything sound worth checking out on Friday?
Probably not, honestly. I don't think I've watched a POWERRR on YouTube yet. I've always just kind of watched USA because at least it's first run, and I can sometimes watch it before there's Alliance guys can happen. I can't watch it, and after hearing the review, you guys don't really sell it to me. Even though I know it's not your job. So nothing really comes out of my way to try to make me want to watch it.
We would if it was worth selling.
Yeah. I mean, there's been episodes here where I'm pounding to my chest, and even DK is rallying behind the NWA, and like, this is the show that we want to watch every week. And then that doesn't happen for a couple of weeks, and it's like they give us these teases, these tastes of what good wrestling is, and then they take it away. And I mean, you could do that too every couple of months. They give us a pay-per-view that usually is really good. Most of the pay-per-views have been worth the price of watching Power alone. But it's not consistent at all.
Yeah, I don't think Kurt Henning's as good of a seller to make me want to watch Power right now. And here's the thing that's really scary. Bookers over time, they kind of burn out and kind of get to a point where nothing they do is any good and they need to get away. So you guys have that to look forward to with Billy Corgan.
He's never
it gets worse.
So I heard there's also another event that's happening on August 27th in beautiful rustic Glassboro, New Jersey. Tell us about Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators and what's going on that weekend.
Do you mean on Saturday night, August 27th, at the Max Fit Sports Center located at 240 Delsey Drive South in beautiful uptown rustic Glassboro, New Jersey?
Yeah, that's the one I was talking about.
Yeah, I thought so. You're going to see the Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators Heavyweight Championship on the line as Busky Eric Martin takes on the Alpha Dog Adam Chandler. A couple of big beefy guys beating the hell out of each other, and that's not even on the. I get DK a little too excited right there, but seeing two guys who look like professional wrestlers actually wrestling each other and beating the crap out of each other, that sounds like something that's good for the business, in my opinion. So that match is going to happen. You're going to see a WWGP Heavyweight Champion as the World Wrestling Grand Prix Champion Chris Steeler takes on Bill Bain. Bill Bain is a very accomplished veteran around the area, has worked for WWE, has worked for Impact, has wrestled against some of the best, most talented wrestlers in the country, was even a conquistador one time. Yeah. And he's going to be taking on Chris Steeler. I'm really looking forward to that match. You have the Old School Empire defending the Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators Tag Team Championship in an open challenge. You have the Staten Island guy. Yeah. Again, a guy who's been in there with some of the top wrestlers in this world and the country. You have the Old School Empire defending the Dog Tag Team Championship in an open challenge. You have the I Quit match between Nikos Rikos and Ty Thomas. They've been feuding for almost the entire year now, and it's going to come to an end. And then I Quit match, two wrestlers come in, and the only way to end the match is to make the other one say I quit. So that's worth it, going to be honestly alone. You can see all these great wrestlers plus Daredevil Dave Dahl on Saturday night, August 27th, Max Fit Sports Center. Check out www.dogprowrestling.com. I'm sure it's updated with the poster and everything. And you get all the information. If you want to ask how good it is, ask Dave Scooby. He's been to a dog event. And I think everybody, it's worth the drive. Wherever you guys live, drive all the way to Glassboro, New Jersey, or fly, or take a boat, or a train. You can walk if you want.
Automobile, just go to the dog show.
Events. Dog doesn't run shows. We run events. But it's well worth it. You should come in. Tickets are only $20. And the Max Fit Sports Center is air conditioned. Apparently, that is an anomaly in the South Jersey wrestling area. And that's why Dog is the #1 wrestling promotion. I do know Magic. Magic is a very nice guy, very big guy. And very talented on the mic.
So that's going to, DK, how could folks follow you on the socials?
At DKMFWTX. But you probably only want to follow me on Twitter. Hey, I do want to point out something that James Jackson said real quick. He goes, there should just be 6 times a pay-per-view pay-per-view company and did weekly TV. And I almost think that would, you said that you think he's 100% right. And I think it would probably be better. But knowing them, they'd do something weird like, have 4 weeks of TV before the pay-per-view and then just not run.
Take time off for most of the year? That sounds like some stupid thing Billy Corgan would probably do.
Or what makes things worse, what about like a return of Carneyland?
There's a reason that Carney Lane killed the NWA.
So
it brought the pandemic on, apparently. Real quick, I got one more thing I want to hype.
Yeah, hype. Make
sure you check out the Bucket for Rent YouTube and Twitch account. Buckets for Rent. Instagram, that too. Make sure to check that all out because there's some really funny jokes, or at least that's what Jake keeps trying to convince me.
And then
there's jokes. Funny.
That's good. Real quick, the end of the poll with a whopping 66% of 9 votes. Avocados are good.
Yeah, people that like testicles, apparently.
And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and end this show. Thank you to everyone who has hung out with us. Again, it's really a thrill each and every week to talk to you guys, the NWA fam, about the news and information of what's going on. So we'll see you guys next week, Monday for the pre-party, or excuse me, Tuesday for the pre-party, Wednesday for the other guys, and then Thursdays for the OGs. We'll see you then at the matches. Thanks for joining the stream. This has been a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. We genuinely appreciate your support. Would you consider subscribing so you'll never miss a future episode? I'd also like to remind you we do a live stream every Tuesday at 5 p.m. before NWA Power. You can find us on social media at The Alliance Blog. And until next time, we are The Alliance.